Hey guys, good morning. Today we're going to talk about Eisenhower and the Cold War. Video should be relatively short. I've already published your assignment in classroom. Make sure you use your book because these aren't tests, they're just assignments instead of a bunch of writing stuff. I found a way to give you guys some multiple choice assignments. Still test your ability to recall information, but also to look it up in the book. So, all right, let's talk about Eisenhower, former general, great general, supreme commander of the Allied forces in World War II. Ran because Truman decided not to run for re-election. Truman got thrown into the presidency when Roosevelt died, and then he decided not to run for re-election. He felt that he had served his time. Truman was a down-to-earth guy. He wasn't looking for power of any sorts. He was kind of a career politician, but it was all by accident. He was tied in with the political boss Tom Pendergast in Kansas City, um, also known as Boss Tom. Um, Truman owned a haberdashery, which was like a men's clothing store, and it wasn't real successful. He ended up being elected as a county judge, which is what our county commissioners are, um, and then became a senator or represent. I can't remember, but he was in Congress. Then he got a nod to be the VP for Roosevelt, for Roosevelt's what would be his final reelection. And I don't think Truman understood how sick Roosevelt was. I don't think anybody really understood that he was going to die shortly after he was reelected. And then Truman ends up as the president of the United States, which was really not what he was looking for. I mean, he ended up succeeding um, FDR in 1945, served those 4 years, was elected to president, and then served out till 1953. And that was enough for him. He basically served two full terms as president. And for a guy not being prepared, he did a pretty good job, really. Truman is kind of one of the not talked about presidents. You don't hear a whole lot about him. He didn't have the swagger of a of a Kennedy or a Teddy Roosevelt, but Truman, he finished World War II. Whether you agree with how he did it or not, he got us out of the Pacific and got us, he did kind of get us into the Cold War, but he didn't schmooze Stalin. He didn't believe in um, dealing with the evil that he could see in Joseph Stalin. He didn't feel like trying to appease him. He felt like um, the other European nations made a huge mistake when they tried to appease Hitler at the start of World War II. So Truman he was a smart guy when it came to the political game. So after Truman decided not to run for re-election, World War II General Dwight D. Eisenhower won the presidency by a landslide. He was a hero. Um, and the people believed it. So Eisenhower felt the way to keep communism from taking hold in America was to improve the economy. He accomplished this by reducing the size of the conventional military and increasing the nuclear arsenal. So there were jobs created. They were building nuclear weapons, um, but he also, with a drop in military, allowed more people to be opened up to work in the economy, and people were making money. Um, really, the 50s was really a pretty good time for people to get conventional jobs and to make some money. The middle class began to thrive a little bit. But this also was brinkmanship. What Eisenhower was doing, it was um, the fact that he was able to threaten war um, in such situations as the Taiwan crisis and the Suez crisis, where communist uprisings were starting to happen in Taiwan and and the Suez region, where the Suez Canal is, which could have been really detrimental to the different regions that those affected. I mean, the Suez Canal, if it could have been overrun by communism, that would have shut down trade from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean through the North Africa. I mean, um, so brinkmanship was Eisenhower's bargaining chip. He was able to posture. He used kind of that general persona that he had. People didn't want to mess with what Eisenhower had to offer. Um, Eisenhower was also one of the first to use covert operations. The U.S. took part in covert operations to avoid the constant threat of brinkmanship. This means that the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, was sent in, operatives are sent in secret to take out communist leaders, to start uprisings, things like, to get countries to see our way. Um, Interventions in Iran and Guatemala showed the United States' strong stance against the spread of communism. The Eisenhower Doctrine authorized the use of military force whenever the president thought it was necessary to assist the Middle East. In resisting communism, there was a time when we offered help to the Middle East. They weren't always trying to, you know, blow us up or anything. But as Eisenhower left office, he warned against the influence of the military industrial complex in a democracy. He was always wary of what too much military could do and completely building up the arsenal at all times. You don't want to look like a warmonger, basically. Um, Continuing on, the space race began. Sputnik was launched by the Soviets, um, which was really kind of an oh crap moment for the United States because the Soviets all of a sudden had this machine in outer space orbiting the Earth that could, drop a bomb whenever it felt like. So that's that's what caused NASA to be created. Um, the National Aeronautics Space Administration was started to catch up. Sputnik's launched, and then holy cow, here we are sitting down, looking up, going, "Oh no, the communists are in space. Whatever shall they do?" So I lost my train of thought. So with all of this going on, the United States built spy planes. Um, the U-2 spy plane would travel up into the upper layer of the atmosphere and fly over Russia, taking photographs of different installations and things like that. Um, the Soviets shot one down, and this really caused alarm for the United States because the Soviets had shot down a spy plane, um, which made it apparent that we were spying on them. So I'm just going to leave it at that, guys. Spies and stuff are always fun. Feel free to research more on your own. The Cold War is interesting, and it's hard to talk about all of it, keeping it together because there's so much in there. So keep watching, keep uh, looking for different things. Listen to the podcast that I told you about. It's excellent. I really enjoy it. So with that, I'm going to call it quits and say goodbye. You guys have a great day.